Hello, I'm Waqar Rizvi, and this is Scope. The United States has sanctioned its own NATO ally, Turkey. Why? Because Turkey dared to essentially buy Russian S-400 missile defense system, something that, of course, happened because the United States itself made the decision not to sell Turkey, at least at that point in time, Patriot missile systems, which, of course, the U.S. itself makes. What does this mean? Obviously, the Turkish officials have reacted negatively to this situation, considering especially that, as I mentioned already, Turkey is a vital NATO ally. Beyond this, what of Turkey's right to make its own independent, sovereign decisions vis-a-vis its defense systems? And is this really a system which would be then, against essentially the NATO systems or NATO overall, as is the concern on the part of the West? Let's discuss that further. We're now joined by Dr. Valeria Giannotta, who is an assistant professor at Türk Hava Kurumu Universities. She's also a scientific director of the Observatory in Turkey and CESPI in Rome. She's joining us today on the line from Ankara. Joining us from Zonguldak is Dr. Haşim Türker, who is a senior researcher at the Bosphorus Center of Asian Studies. And joining us from Central Anatolia is Dr. Rasim Özgür Dönmez, who is a professor of political science. He's also the dean of the Faculty of Humanity and Social Sciences at Abdullah Gül University. Haşim, Rasim, and Valeria, thank you to all three of you for your time today. Haşim, let me start with you. What do you make of this sanctions at this time?
First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me into your program. As you already iterate, CAATSA, it's the countering America's allies, America's adversaries. Sorry, because it's oxymoron. It cannot be imposed to an ally as a rule, because it's a local legislation of America, and it's an oxymoron because Turkey is a staunch ally of America and NATO since its inception, as you all already know. And I believe that Turkey has every right to purchase any arms from any countries because Turkey has needs for high altitude missile defense, and it requests from NATO countries firstly, but that request has not been accepted by our allies. So as a solution, Turkey turns to other countries for the need, and as a result, Turkey has purchased S400 air defense system last year, and now has tested it's ready to be used operationally.
Okay, so Rasim, what are your thoughts on this? Because as Haşim already mentioned, Turkey has the right to choose who it buys defense systems from. But in this case, the Americans and NATO would say that the S-400 would in fact not be compatible with the fact that Turkey is a NATO member. What do you make of that argument, Rasim?
Thank you very much. By the way, what I'm thinking is, in the state sectors, this decision is not taken so much seriously from my point of view, because Turkey and United States is an ally and will be an ally. However, in the new system, Turkey can not only be dependent to NATO. NATO cannot be the sole ally for Turkey, because Turkey should be ally with Russia, maybe in some points in China. This is the rules of the multipolar world. About this country, America's adversaries through sanctions acts, I can say that this is a soft warning of the United States to Turkish government. And from my point of view, again, it will be, they will set up a mechanism, two countries will set up a mechanism, and they will sort it out in the middle term, from my point of view.
Valeria, tell us, what are your thoughts? What are the Europeans, for example, that you speak to? What are they saying about the S-400 and concerns about whether or not this is compatible with NATO?
Definitely, as you rightly pointed out, Turkey is a full member of NATO, and as you know, NATO it is an alliance which was born back into the time against the Soviet Union. Actually, the main purpose was that. So there is huge concern, and mainly all European policymakers and European contacts claim that the S400 defense system is not compatible with the NATO defense system. Therefore, here lays the main friction, the main point of friction actually between Turkey and NATO members and European members as well. On the other side, it's even true that Turkey, back to the time during the Obama administration, asked for the Patriot defense missiles, but this request was rejected. Therefore, I mean, the Ankara policymakers claims that they did not have any other choice. Rather, I mean, in order to defend their own security, their own interest, to find another partner actually for purchasing the defense missile system. Of course, from the European point of view, there are some more concerns. I mean, we shouldn't forget that last week there was the Council of Europe. And they were discussed to impose further sanctions on Turkey due to the activities in the Eastern Mediterranean. It means, of course, they impose a sort of cosmetic sanctions on Turkey that they are not going to harm Turkey from an economic point of view. They prefer to follow a so-called positive agenda towards Turkey because they recognize that Turkey is a valuable partner, like not just within the European Union, but even for like combating terrorism and just containing the threats coming from the southeast part of the NATO alliance as well. So there is this sort of stick and carrots behavior towards Turkey. Of course, Turkey has some legitimate rights to defend itself, but I think the critical point lays on the fact that the Russian defense system is not considered compatible to the NATO organization system and criteria.
Okay. If I may come in, then Valeria, yeah, exactly, is the main problem, right? So Haşim, it's not like, even as Valeria there mentioned, it's not like Turkey did not approach America first, right, to be able to buy the Patriot system, and America at that time at least refused. So what was Turkey meant to do then next? What do you think could have avoided this situation?
As President Erdogan already expressed his thoughts on this issue, Turkey's main direction is towards Europe and towards West, and Turkey is a part of Europe. And Turkey will not cease to be a NATO member after this decision, and I believe that Turkey's main alliance will remain as the Western Alliance and the NATO and European Union. And I believe that these sections are aiming not especially Turkey and in particularly Russia, because the other CAATSA sanctions that U.S. imposed or has tried to impose in the last 3 years, where the CAATSA Act has been approved by the President of the United States in 2017, they are aiming China or Russia, and they are aiming especially the arms purchases or the private companies or state companies which try to purchase arms from these countries. And the main issue is here great power competition between China, particularly China, Russia, and United States. And I believe that we are entering, or we already has entered to the era of great competition, great power competition. And we will see such issues in the coming period. We will see different countries purchasing arms from China and Russia as well, maybe from the European continent. This will be a hard time for all countries, especially between the emerging countries and the countries which needs arms for their defense systems.
Rasim, then that means that Turkey, right, as we know, Turkey has good relations, is an important NATO ally, of course, and that on the other side, it has fairly good relations with Russia as well. Will Turkey be able to balance this?
I mean, what you say is to some extent true, but they have also a problematic relationship both with Russia and the United States at the same time, because the region where Turkey locates is a very problematic region. Turkey has problems with Kurds in Syria. Turkey has problems in Mediterranean. Turkey has problems in Azerbaijan, the Karabakh issue. And when you look at this, the region, we are talking about a huge amount of region. Turkey should act, in relationship with both of these two actors, and these actors need Turkey in some points. And Turkey is an important actor in their foreign policies for enriching their aims. In some points, Turkey will balance these relationships.
Valeria, what are your thoughts on that? Because as we obviously know and we realize, Turkey certainly is in a strategically important part of the world. Will it be able to, do you think, balance these relations? It has, differences as well as interests, common interests with both sides, be it the Russians or NATO.
Country in the Middle East and in a very critical areas as well, where there are some competing interests, both from American side, Russian, and several other actors. Definitely, Turkey will try to balance its own interests and will try to mediate between these competing stakeholders of the conflict. But I do believe we shouldn't forget that the new president, Mr. Biden, he's coming to the office, and he already expressed a sort of disappointment towards Turkey and Erdogan's government. We believe, as we observe the situation, that Biden will propose a more liberal agenda, so it will enforce a sort of more multilateral approach in the international affairs and the international relationship. So Turkey, to some extent, will be pushed basically to protect its own interests, but by complying with the multilateral approach of the constraints within the international institution that it's belonging to, in order to protect its own interests. Definitely, the Western side cannot lose Turkey, because Turkey is a key player in a very critical environment like Syria, but Libya as well. And Turkey has been one of the main brokers of the peace agreement that they reached both in Libya, but it has been recently reached in Azerbaijan related to the Karabakh issue as well. But of course, on the other side, Turkey is a full member of some international organization, and being member of any sort of organization means that beside the rights, you have some duties as well. So I think for the next future, I'm expecting, I don't know if it's a wishful thinking, but I'm expecting a more multilateral approach from Turkey's side as well, because there will be more frictions areas. This Biden administration already declared that it's going to support Greece, is going to support Cyprus within the Mediterranean. They are the main competitors of Turkey. Indeed. So Turkey cannot run the risk to be further isolated from their, its legitimate
And that
area,
makes complete sense. Yeah, I'm just going to jump in. We have about a minute left, so I'm going to give Haşim the last word, if you allow me. Haşim, on that point of Joe Biden now becoming the American president, at least soon, do you think that will change things, good or bad, for Turkey?
I don't think that it will not change the scene entirely, but I'm sure the relations will be better under Biden administration, because Biden administration will probably strengthen the America's alliances in different regions of the world. So slightly better. My expectation is under Biden administration, the relations will be slightly better if the United States and especially the European Union will be acceptive and will accept the needs and rights of Turkey in the region.
Very well. I believe there's a word. We appreciate Valeria, Haşim, and Rasim for their time today. All three of them speaking to us from Turkey, giving their points of view on the fact the United States has now sanctioned Turkey for the fact that it is and has already bought the Russian S-400 missile defense system. This is after Turkey, as I said in my introduction, also had in fact first approached the United States to buy the Patriot-made missile system there. NATO says, and the U.S. says, that the Russian S-400 is not compatible with the systems that they have in place. Then that puts Turkey seemingly at odds then with that side. But nevertheless, it also has differences with the Russians also in some key areas, as Valeria also pointed out. So this is a delicate balancing act for the Turks at this point in time. Will they be able to do it? What kind of an effect does this have going forward? Because we also remember that Turkey has been kicked out of the F-35 program. Also, at this time, Turkish officials are saying and are staying strong, saying that this would be good for the domestic defense industry. We'll have to wait and see if that is in fact the fact. I'll be back with my next segment after this break. Welcome back, viewers. You're still here in Scope with me, Waqar Rizvi. Now, in Nigeria, once again, children have been abducted from a school. Around 300 or so schoolboys right now are missing as we speak, though the government says it is aware where they are, seemingly, but does not want to go in and attack because of the danger of collateral damage. Now, Boko Haram has claimed responsibility for the abduction of these students as well. We remember back in 2014 that Boko Haram kidnapped 276 schoolgirls in that year. And of course, there was global uproar about that incident at that time. Let's discuss this further. We're now joined by Dr. Sheriff Folarin, who is the professor and head of Department of Political Science and International Relations at Covenant University. He's joining us now from Lagos. Sheriff, thank you very much for your time today. What do you make of this incident? Why isn't Nigeria able to secure its own schools?
First, thank you for having me. It's a symptom of the trajectory of the Nigerian state today. It's a state that is, for some years now, has been witnessing security crisis, which of course can be looked at from different perspectives. First, political will, and second, the military enthusiasm or will and readiness. And third, of course, you have religious bigotry and affiliations here and there, primordial sentiments of different groups that they tend to kind of undermine the security situation. And then, of course, finally, the economic situation as well. All of this combine to explain the Nigerian security crisis. The present circumstances, which of course is the abduction of more than 337 or 67 students or thereabout from a government science school in Ankara, Katsina State, is just an extension of the security dilemma that we have faced in Nigeria for the past 10 years. And like I said, this thing goes beyond just Kankara or Dapchi or even Chibok, which of course happened in 2018 and 2014 respectively. This is more of a trajectory that is symptomatic of a nation that is heading towards a major political crisis. I wouldn't want to say that it's a nation that is going to fail or that has failed, but I would say that it's a symptom. When you talk about a symptom, you are saying that it's something that can still be taken care of. So It's a symptom actually of a failing state. But again, we must understand the undercurrents of these abductions. Yeah. Now, we have mentioned that Boko Haram has claimed, responsibility for this very abduction. The same way they claimed responsibility for Chibok in 2014 and for Dapchi in 2018. We must understand that we also have some other groups in Nigeria that operate like Boko Haram. We have the Fulani headsmen, and we had that challenge for more than a year in Nigeria. That ebbed a little after the 2019 presidential elections. But we've also had bandits that have traversed the whole of north-central Nigeria and they are all over, northwest of Nigeria again. And
right.
so you are wondering, and the modus operandi of the bandits, they're not different from the modus operandi of Boko Haram or of ISWAP in the northeast.
If I may come in, Sheriff, because you've mentioned the fact that this may very well be a symbolic of a state that is in trouble, an establishment that is in trouble. So what is the challenge here really? Is it that Boko Haram is such a strong group? Is that the challenge then? Is the challenge really the one of national security, that the government and the establishment, be it the military, security forces, otherwise, aren't being able to get an upper hand on Boko Haram? Because, as I said in my introduction, it's interesting that the Nigerian authorities say we know where these boys are, but we're not going to go in right now because of collateral damage. So that means that it's not a complete intelligence failure?
Beautiful. That's actually what the major point. It's a complete intelligence failure. But we must, like I said, we must understand the undercurrents of this situation. The first thing I mentioned was political will. Where is the political will? Now, between 2018, when the Dapchi incident occurred, and now, we've had lots and lots of kidnappings or abductions of students. But the reason why this has become, has attracted global attention is because of the number, the demographics, and of course the number of people involved. So there is a political will that is lacking. There is that kind of the conscientiousness of government that is lacking. And you'll be wondering, because this happened in Katsina State, which is the home state of the current president. Yeah. And the president was just arriving Katsina for a week-long vacation when this incident occurred. So you'll be like, this is not just about a security lacuna per se. There seems to be some kind of political undercurrent to it. And then you'll be wondering whether exactly Boko Haram is what it claims to be, a religious group that wants an end to Western education, or it is just a front for several other, undercurrents, several other groups that want to tear the Nigerian state apart. And probably you'll be wondering too whether it has become an enterprise where some kind of political interest, or some kind of foreign interest, or some kind of government interest, they have a hand in this, and of course they want to have a bit or larger portions of the pie, or what we call the national cake in Nigeria. So the Boko Haram, ISWAP, and all these other acts of banditry going on in northern Nigeria today, they present a picture of a state, like I said, that is heading for the precipice. And it's one thing to say that government lacks political will. It's another thing to say that is Boko Haram really that mighty? Now, that brings me to the question of what happened not too long ago when an American citizen was abducted and taken to Niger Republic, and the Americans planned a hit, and then, of course, were able to rescue this American citizen with little or no collateral damage. Now, that's where intelligence comes in. And it is not that the Nigerian military or the Nigerian authorities lack intelligence capacity, but the fact is, where is the will for it? And there will not be a will for it where there is an economic or a kind of mercantilist undercurrent in the entire venture.
So if I may come in, Sheriff, because, what's disturbing, obviously, and it makes sense, certainly, consequences of what has happened is that a lot of schools, I believe, have shut down, have shut their doors right now for fear of the security and safety, or lack of their respective students. This is devastating, is it not? I mean, we're already having enough problems this year with the pandemic and et cetera. And of course, Nigeria's had this issue of security for a while now, vis-a-vis from Boko Haram and, as you said, other groups also. What kind of an effect does this then have on the next generation?
Well, it instills a lot of fears in Nigerians. It's one of the reasons why many Nigerians really want to, flee, relocate from Nigeria and, live somewhere else. And you see, 200 million people cannot leave their country. So that's why we would need the government to really show the will. And like you've stated it very aptly, that what are the consequences of this for the next generation? I mean, what kind of Nigeria are we building for ourselves? Are we building a country where will become a major problem? Consider our demographics, consider the size of this country and the neighbors that we have around us. They are poorer. There are neighbors that they are still feeding from hand to mouth. In fact, many of them rely on Nigeria for one resource or the other, for grants, for loans, and all of that. And yet we are creating problems for our neighbors all around. Now, the next generation is a generation that is already in fear. It's a generation that is thinking that this is the new normal, and it is going to remain like this for a very long time, because we've had this trajectory for 10 years, and there seems to be no end in sight. And so
Sheriff, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you. I apologize, just because we have another guest joining us as well, and I wanted to add his voice to the conversation, if you allow me. We're now joined by Daniel Netah, who is a professor and the head of Department of the Intelligence and Security Studies at Novena University. He's joining us now from Ogume. Daniel, thank you very much for your time today. Daniel, was this an intelligence failure on the part of Nigerian authorities that this school was able to be attacked again? I mean, we've had, of course, such an incident back in 2014 as well.
Thank you very much for having me on this auspicious program. Let me also say that the bulk of what I'm going to be saying will not be different from what my colleague had mentioned. I do know that this country has been facing this trajectory in terms of the challenges of governance and nation building for a while. And I also do know that in the last 10 years or so, we have been facing what I can refer to as a situation of the Nigerian state becoming a captured state. I tend to hold a different view from those who see Nigeria as a failing state or as a failed state, as it were, because we are actually operating on the basis of a working state. But the greatest challenge that we have right now is that I've discovered that in the course of my research, Nigeria should be best described as a captured state. And what are the forces that tend to capture the Nigerian state? We have a group of centripetal forces that are trying to pull this country in disparate directions. And these factors are situated in religion, they're situated in the economy, they're also situated in the political structure of this country. What am I trying to say here? We have a situation where people are leveraging on a lot of primordial sentiments to externalize their grievances. I have written sometime in 2008 when I was doing a work on the challenges of street children and national security in Nigeria, and I had warned the country at that time that these street children that we have today will definitely become the foot soldiers of non-state actors and terrorist organizations in future. So as we speak right now, we are actually at the maturity stage of these young children who have matured into radical elements that are ready to hit us at any point in time.
All right, so that's the solution then, Daniel, because, you know, this has happened, as you both have mentioned, of course, this is not new a situation. What needs to happen now? Because it seems that these terror groups and these different groups can keep doing this over and over again. And this time around, as I'd put to Sheriff as well, the government is saying we know where the boys are, but we're not going to go in because of collateral damage. So it doesn't seem like a complete intelligence failure either.
Let me tell us, you know, the truth about this situation. We have, like I said, in the captured state, trajectory, because most of us, and indeed those in government, are fully aware of what is happening. And I must say that part of this problem is a product of intra-class struggle, and there is also a political dimension to it. And just like you rightly pointed out, I'm even sure that people in government knew about the attack before it came. It is a situation that I see more of, you know, a kind of political struggle, you know, from the Nigerian state, which is extremely very juicy at the moment. So you can see that we are in a situation where we have the solution, but we are most unwilling to act because the bulk of even some people in government are beneficiaries of this crisis as we have in Nigeria, ranging from the security, institutions and even the politicians in government. And if you ask me quite sincerely about, the solution to this recurring decimal. I must tell you that the solution must be rooted in the total overall of the process of nation building in this country. Let me be honest with you. I'm a Nigerian, and I know a lot about this country. I can tell you categorically that the situation is with us. We have the best brains. We have one of the best set of security personnel in this country. But because of the interest to capture as many resources as possible from the Nigerian state, you will see that they are aware and they know what to do and will sincerely will not want to do that. And why is it so? It is because that there are some inherent inbuilt contradiction within the Nigerian state that tend to benefit from it from time to time. So if we must move forward, one of the principal things we must do is to
we will have to stop it. I do sincerely apologize. The clock has gotten the best of us. We appreciate both Sheriff and Daniel for their time today, speaking to us there from different parts of Nigeria, sharing their expertise with us about the kidnapping of these 300+ schoolboys. A disturbing situation, especially in a country where we already had the Chibok incident happen back in 2014. Did the country not learn the lessons from that horrendous incident, where I believe 100+ schoolgirls of that incident back in 2014 are still missing and still have not been recovered at this point in time? What happens next for Nigeria? Will it be able to recover these boys? What happens for security within its education system and just security overall? Will it get a handle over these sorts of terror groups as well? I'll be back with my final segment after this break. Welcome back, viewers. You're still here in Scope with me, Waqar Rizvi. In the final segment, we're going to discuss the Rohingya, but this time we're going to hone in on people smugglers. And this is not just an issue that affects the Rohingya, but certainly all those sorts of people who are seeking to escape from persecution or other such situations, poverty even within their respective countries, towards other countries, safer havens in their minds at least, and the fact that they are then vulnerable to people smugglers, human trafficking groups, etc., and the abuse that they mete out to them on the way to their respective destinations that they feel would be safe havens. So there's a video that has come out, a harrowing video really, of Rohingyas being beaten on a boat for daring to essentially ask for the likes of food, water, etc. Let's discuss that a bit further. We're now joined by Ryszard Piotrowicz, who is a professor of law and the first vice president of the Council of Europe's group of experts on action against trafficking in human beings. He's joining us today from Wales. Ryszard, thank you very much for taking your time out of your schedule to speak to us. What do you make of this video? I mean, I know that a lot of people discuss the fact that people smugglers, human traffickers do abuse, be it Rohingya or other asylum seekers, but this sort of proof, it really puts it out there, right?
I think it's horrific, but it's not surprising, unfortunately, because it is well known that this kind of exploitation and terrible maltreatment of people in this situation, asylum seekers, refugees, is quite common. It's happening to the Rohingya people, and it's happening in other parts of the world too. For example, in the Mediterranean, with people who are trying to cross from Libya to Italy. So I'm not surprised, but it is awful because these people are extremely vulnerable.
So, you know, solution as discussed, and I'm going to hone in on the UK for a moment because that seems to be the context that we can discuss as well, where we have a lot of people, for example, coming over the channel, and the discussion that I've had with experts in the past is that, in fact, the UK and other parts of Europe need to create legal routes for people to enter. Is that where the solution lies?
I think that is part of the solution, to create a legal possibility for people to migrate, because these people are desperate, and whether they're fleeing poverty or war or some kind of persecution, they're not going to be interested in the fact that the law says you're not allowed to travel to Thailand or Malaysia or the United Kingdom, wherever it is. They are desperate people. And the international migration regime talks about solidarity between countries, but in actual fact, countries like the United Kingdom are immune to much of this because we're on a small island far away from everybody else. Even though it's a popular destination, it is very difficult to get to the United Kingdom. And if there was some fairness, if you like, in the system, it would involve some burden sharing, and that would include establishing legal possibilities for people to be able to migrate. But the reality is that many of the people who want to migrate would even then find it very difficult because they would probably not have sufficient qualifications to be acceptable to the destination countries.
There is, as you well know, Ryszard, as well, I believe that the Home Office and the Home Secretary who keep speaking about the fact that we need to go after these people smugglers, these human traffickers, right? That seems to be the concentration a lot of the times. And this is not, of course, just on the part of the UK. This is on the part of, I believe, Italy, Salvini, and others have spoken about this a number of times in the past also. That sort of spotlight just on people smuggling and human trafficking, is that fair as well? I mean, certainly there's the argument to be made that there are human rights issues there as well, but then it seems that we then, don't have that balance of then these people having the legal right to seek, safety from persecution. Am I right to say that?
I think you are right, but I think part of the solution is to seek to prosecute the traffickers and the smugglers. Part of it is to put them out of business, and that is including by following the money and trying to seize their assets. But if the smugglers are based in a country like Libya, which quite frankly is not really subject to effective government control, it is very difficult to do that. And what countries also, destination countries like the UK, should also be doing is remembering that they have duties, legal obligations to support and protect people who come within their jurisdiction, who manage to get to the UK. And in that situation, I think there's more that destination countries like the UK could do. But this is, in my view, not something that has one solution only. It requires a number of measures over a significant period of time. And the biggest issue of all is, why are those people taking these amazing risks with their lives in the first place? And of course, the reasons vary from one country to another.
And just as a final comment before I let you go, then Ryszard, a minute and a half if you can, are you optimistic? Is there light at the end of the tunnel in the context of the UK or even other European countries? There seems to just be this hardening of stances, isn't there, towards asylum seekers?
It depends what you mean by optimistic. Some people would say that the best solution is to make migration almost impossible, except for the most highly qualified. I don't agree with that view. I'm pessimistic about things for the short to medium term because there is so much money to be made from human smuggling and from human trafficking. And as long as that is such a profitable activity, I believe that it is going to continue. And there's just too much incentive for people to do this. The victims are very vulnerable people. And I think that a lot of countries do not consider it a sufficiently high priority to actually stop this going on. They want to stop the migration. They're not so bothered, in my view, about stopping the ill treatment and the maltreatment of the victims of the smugglers and the traffickers.
Very well. We'll leave it there at that. But we sincerely appreciate you taking your time out to share your expertise with us. That was Ryszard speaking to us there from Wales in the UK, speaking about the fact that, we have these human smugglers, these people traffickers who are abusing the likes of Rohingya and others on the high seas as they try to seek safety from persecution in their own homelands, be it Myanmar or elsewhere in the world, or even just an escape from the poverty in their respective nations. Also, they do have an international right, according to international law, to seek such safety. But there are no legal routes at this point in time, at least, in the case of the UK and many other European countries, also to be able to then respectively enter those countries legally. So then they do seek these illegal routes. And as Ryszard there said, we need to then talk about the root causes of why and what pushes people to such desperate conditions that they would want to put themselves and their family members in harm's way, knowing full well that these human smugglers and people traffickers will take advantage of them, will abuse them, likely on the high seas or even before or after that situation also. I'll leave it there for now. I've been Waqar Rizvi. Thanks for watching.